Okay, now I've told you to use stories, but how do you find them? That's really important. You've got to get good stories, things that people want to think about. That's easy to think about, things that teach a great lesson. Well, I'm going to teach you how to find these stories. Not in this section. That's going to be in a which stands for overwhelm. There I'm going to teach you how to find some great stories, more stories than you can handle. Keep in mind, you can jump anywhere you want in this course. So, if you want to jump down to overwhelm because you're already excited and you want to learn how to find all these great stories, I'll tell you that alone is going to make your speech versation or your public speaking skills explode when you have in your arsenal an unlimited supply of stories. So that alone will enhance it. If you're excited and you want to jump to that, go ahead. As I've mentioned, you can jump anywhere you want in this course. Everything complements itself. It all plays off of each other. It all is wrapped into one giant story. The spark words, story. This will show you how great stories are. Now, here's a good question. When it comes to creating your speech versation, how often do you tell stories? And how many do you tell? Those are good questions, right? Yeah. When it goes to creating them, follow the outline to make a statement, and then tell a story. And then make another statement and then tell a story. Remember, at the technology convention, we made a statement about technology, and then we told a quick story. Or, in that situation, it was a quick little quip. It was a quick little fact or statistic. Remember, you can use quotes or fact. You can use any of them. They're all connected. You can use a fable. You can use a true story. You can use a made-up story. You can tell a fairy tale. You can tell reality. You can tell your own story. You can tell someone else's story. So when you go to make this outline, or when you go to create your speech versation, that's how you can line it up. You can make a statement and tell the story. Make a statement and tell a story. Then it won't be cluttered with a bunch of words. It'll instead simply have a statement and a trigger word for the story, like painting Da Vinci Mona Lisa. You get the idea. It's very simple and it's very effective. Also, you have to make sure that it'll fit, depending on how long your speech is. Is it 5 minutes or is it 20 minutes? That'll give you an idea of how many statements you can make and how many stories you can tell. So, tailor it to that. There's no hard, fast rule. You decide as you see. Is there too many? Do you need to take one out? Also, keep in mind you don't just want to put in a story. That's good for your ego. That makes you feel good. Or that you're in love with that story. You're like married to it. But it's not going to do anything for the audience. Or, it doesn't really apply. It's not something that we really care about. Or, just to tell something funny that's just funny. But it's actually not at all going to add to what we're going to do, and it's actually not even that funny. Be very strict, almost jealous about your speech versation, in the sense that you guard it closely and only let the best in, okay? Make sure that you're not the awkward speaker who gets up there and starts telling stories that don't make any sense, and that they're leaning on that one story. You know, I've seen that happen so many times. If you don't have much time, you might not be able to tell the entire story. So cut the story down to smaller pieces. Sometimes you might find the story was better when you cut it down anyway. You only want to give the main point. You don't need to make it drawn out and long and too many details. We start losing the point. But again, if you don't have much time, you might not even have time for a complete long story. So, throw in another type of story, which is a quote or throw in a fact. They're very quick. They're very effective. They don't take much time, but they can really drive the point home. Let's say that the subject you're talking about is attitude, and how a good attitude is so important. And so you bring up a lot of great points here and there and here and there. So you bring up a lot of great points. Your speech versation is packed with great stories. But here's the problem. You have too many, and you have to trim some. Well, look for the points that are most important. So, let's say you've got some topics that are really important on attitude, like having a great attitude and how valuable it is. Some ways that you can have a great attitude. But, let's say at the end of your speech, there's a section that you do want to talk about, and that is on how we get sad when good times are over, and how it might bring us down, and how we don't want it to bring us down. Well, maybe you've got a great story for that. But the thing is, that story doesn't fit. What are you going to do? Are you going to feel married to it? You're going to say, I'm going to force it in, and I'm going to go over time and take up too much time. Or you're going to realize, well, I need to make those other points more. They're more important. So I'm going to put the great stories and connect them to those points over here. And this point, I can actually cut the story back. No, you know what? That doesn't even work. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to say a quote, but I'm going to say an awesome quote. That'll do. That'll be enough. It reminds me of a great quote. That quote says, don't cry because it's over, but smile because it happened. You see how inspiring that is? It immediately makes you positive. It makes you happy. But it took one sentence. That fits on one sentence because there's a comma in it. Look at what you can do with that. So powerful. So keep in mind that you're going to have to trim sections. In order to make things fit, put on the most important points. Craft stories to what you want to do. Don't be a slave to them. Use them as your slave. But don't treat them as a slave. Instead, Treat them as a nice agreement. Treat them as an arrangement. Make them your best friend. You become a part of the message. Trust me, this is the type of dancing you want to do. You want to dance with stories. You want to dance with your voice. No, you want to paint pictures with your voice.